What's up, everybody? I am Bear with BearIndependent.com and the YouTube channel Bear Independent. Bear, you need to fix your eyebrow. There, I fixed it. Simmer down. We're going to talk about some food storage options for SHTF today here on Survival Dispatch. If you're new here, just go ahead and subscribe. The channel's growing like crazy. Lots of great content creators. I'm just happy to be here. So within the vein of food storage for preparedness purposes, there's a lot of different methodologies. There's a lot of different opinions. There's a lot of hullabaloo, frankly, because a lot of people have opinions that aren't based in fact because they've never done it. And so we're going to look at multiple food storage options. And yes, you want multiple food storage options, okay? So you don't want to get confused, especially if you're new. Yeah, I have a script because otherwise I'd sit here and talk for an hour and not have said anything to you. If you're confused, you're going to make poor decisions. And if you're making poor decisions, it's not going to go well for you. So we're all familiar with analysis paralysis, or hopefully you are, or paralysis by analysis is another way of saying it. You have so many options that you don't do anything. Well, just shy of that is Overwhelmed Induced Inadequacy, or as I like to call it, OII. And I don't want you to be OII. No, I just made that up. Overwhelm Induced Inadequacy. You got so many options that you barely execute, and then you think that you have more food than you have, and it turns out you don't. In fact, I see this all the time with people I consult with. Oh yeah, we've got a year's worth of food. Homie, that's like 4 months worth of food. Oh, well, it says on the box, and then I did that. Nope. No. So, let's go through some different types of food storage for SHTF. So the most convenient option is store-bought canned food. This is good because it's already cooked and it's ready to go, and you have lots of options here. You like creamed corn, we got creamed corn. You like SpaghettiOs, we got SpaghettiOs. You can get whole canned chickens, a whole chicken in a can. Buy all kinds of stuff in cans. So it's already cooked, it's already ready to go. You've got lots of choices. You've got easy access to this with every trip to the grocery store that you make, and it's usable in everyday life, which means it should never be a wasted, air quote, purchase. I recommend you buy what you eat and you eat what you buy when it comes to preparedness food. So this way you're constantly rotating those cans, which have at least a year's worth of shelf life. We can argue about more than a year's worth of shelf life at a later date. But you can rotate this in and out. And I like to have a working pantry with at least 3 months worth of stuff in it. Flour, yeast, sugar, cornmeal, canned goods, etc., etc., etc. Working pantry with 3 months worth of food in it. The drawbacks to canned food is that it's not very portable. They're hard to transport, they're bulky, they weigh a lot, and they can't be reused, right? You open that can, you're done. The issue that I have with canned food is, the drawback that I have with it is that it's not very portable. So pre-position your canned food at your bug out location, or if you're planning on bugging in, which should be your first line of defense, have a whole metric butt ton, almost said a bad word, of canned food at your location and use it. A sustainable option here is home canning, so you can reuse those glass jars. This is really only relevant if you have a large garden, which you should, or you have access to lots of fresh produce, you can put up a lot of food that way. We had, I think it's 532 pounds of chicken breast. The ladies here canned over the course of 3 days, pressure canning, 288 quart jars. What does that work out to? A lot. 576 pounds of chicken. Cool. And it'll last a good long while. The drawback here is it's also not very portable. In fact, it's probably less portable than tin cans are, metal cans are, because glass will break, and then that's just a problem all around. Also, the lids are not necessarily reusable, canning lids. The rings are, the jars are, but the lid's not so much. If you just nudge the edge of the lid and get it to pull up without any deformation, you may get another seal or two out of it. But you should definitely stockpile extra lids if canning and pressure canning at home is an SHTF option for you. And you should also look into the Tattler reusable lids. Now, right now, I think the going rate is 1 Tattler lid per 1 ounce silver round. I think that's what they're at right now, comma, you should be getting these things if you can. Dry food, meaning food that's not constituted. By the way, anything that is constituted in cans or in jars needs to be in a climate-controlled environment, because the freeze-thaw will cause that food to degrade over time. So climate-controlled environment. Everything else, if it has no water in it, can go outside indefinitely. Below freezing is good for it. Above 120 degrees with wheat, things start to get weird, because the gluten proteins in the wheat start to break down, and then instead of making bread, you're kind of making mush with that wheat. But in most regions of the United States, outside is not going to get, for a sustained period of time, above 120 degrees, which means you can store that stuff, your bucketed food and your dried goods and your emergency survival rations and blah, 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 in a storage container, in a barn, in an outbuilding, in your garage, wherever. And again, the freezing is good for it because all grains have little tiny insect eggs in them. I know it's gross. You know, when you look at bread or flour and the protein content in there, it's 18% protein, 8% protein rather. That's a high protein flour. The majority of that comes from the insects that were in the wheat when they ground that up. Yeah, I know. You're grossed out now. Deal with it, homie. It's the end of the world as we know it. So, dry food. Back to dry food. Most convenient option is ready-made long-term storage meals. You know, this is your My Patriot Supply and all these other people, you know, Thrive Life and yada, yada, yada. In fact, I think we still have a My Patriot Supply affiliate for Bear Independent. I think you can go to preparewithbear.com and get some of that if you want. If you don't, that's okay too. No big deal. But that stuff is easy to prepare, and it's light, which makes it portable, and it's relatively compact because there's no water in it. Okay, it's not constituted. There's lots of variety, lots of tastes. You can find what they call religious meals, kosher or halal a lot of the times as well. And you can buy a 1 week supply, a 3 month supply, a year supply, whatever you prefer. Now, the thing to be aware with a lot of these is the calories per day. A lot of these meal plans have somewhere between 1,200 and 1,600 calories per day. Well, 1,200 calories is 1 MRE. The math here, and I've backed into this math a lot, from about 12 different sources I compiled this math, is a military-aged male, for our purposes between the age of 16 and 35 years old, engaged in strenuous activity, out here getting after it, sweating, you know, working their body all day, requires a minimum of 3,200 calories per day in order to not lose body mass. So 3,200 calories per day is twice the 1,600 calories per day that's in a lot of these 3 week supply. Actually, it's not 21 days, it's 10 days if you get to 3,200 calories. So you need to be aware of that. That's about 2 pounds of grain per day, corn, rice, wheat, beans, which we'll touch on here in a minute, because they're all roughly 1,600 calories per pound. So, and for your information, the most caloric dense items that you can be eating are root vegetables and meat. Whole nother story. But 3,200 calories per person per day, that works out to 750 pounds of grain per person per year, which is 3,277.18 calories per day at 750 pounds of grain per person per year. So these ready-made disaster meals, they're pretty tasty. We've tried a lot of them. Just make sure the calorie count is where you need it to be. If it says it's a 3 month supply, make sure it's a 3 month supply. There's superior convenience, not just in the design, but in the actual preparation of food. Most of them is add water and boil, which is good. When we're dealing with our preparedness meals, we want to add water and boil and or dump things in a pot and heat up. We don't want to have to be going through a whole bunch of, expending lots of calories, lots of energy, lots of time, lots of fuel to cook and prepare meals. Dump in pot, heat up, boil water, put in water, whatever, okay? So the drawback to this type of prepper food is that it's really pricey. Honestly, it's way more pricey than doing it yourself. It definitely has applications. It's good for bug out kits. It's good for potentially for bug out bags. Although if you're in a non-permissive environment, meaning you can't make a fire, you can't make noise, blah, 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 tearing open that Mylar and starting a fire to boil the water to cook the stuff is not the best. And this is probably a good time to talk about MREs, or meals ready to eat, as well. Field strip your MREs. They take up half the space as they did before you field stripped them. Take everything out of the packaging, everything out of the cardboard, and you can wrap them up with duct tape. You can put them in a 1-gallon Ziploc bag to make them nice and tight. And MREs are about 1,200 calories per meal, 2 to 3 per day as you're moving. And again, if you're deeply religious, you can get kosher or halal MREs as well. Just Google it, and there's vendors that come up. But MREs for long-term storage, I don't particularly like them unless it's for supporting sustained operations as a partisan or as a security force for your prepper commune or whatever you're going to be living in, where people have to go into the field to do the things in potentially non-permissive environments, and then you take a couple MREs with you, or 12, or whatever you got going on. But as a long-term food storage option for you who's staying at home, I don't like them for that because they're expensive. They take up a bunch of space. And why am I going to rip open an MRE when I can boil some water and make some pasta with a delicious meat sauce with ground lamb in it right here, right now? See what I mean? So your cheapest DIY option is dry food in Mylar bags and buckets. And so this is where I was saying corn, rice, wheat, beans. That's specifically what I recommend. If you have an allergy to any of those things, just add more of the others, okay? So, and this is also good if you can't afford to buy a year's worth of food at one time. You get some rice, you get some beans, you get some corn, you get some wheat. Where do I find wheat? Find the grain bins. Every state, hell, every county in a lot of places has grain bins. Call them and say, hey, do you have wheat? And they're going to say, you want inoculated wheat? No, it's not for planting. I just want wheat. Okay, cool. Hard red winter wheat is my favorite, but white wheat works fine as well. That's where you get wheat from. Or you can spend an exorbitant amount of money on the internet to buy a, cruelty-free, blessed by the Dalai Lama, organic, non-GMO, 50-pound sack of wheat for $999 plus free shipping. Whatever floats your boat, homie. 750 pounds of grains per person per year. I'm going to go to the grain bin and get wheat for 8 cents a pound or whatever, okay? Feed corn. Yes, feed corn. Not deer corn. Deer corn is literally the bottom of the barrel. Also, popcorn. Bulk popcorn works well for this. I've eaten feed corn. It makes delicious cornmeal. It's great. You're going to want a grinder as well. I like the Catalina grinder. It's cheap. You're going to have to grind it twice if you're trying to make fine flour. It's like $60. And then we also have the Country Living Mill. It's, you could damn near buy a nice used vehicle for a Country Living Mill, but it's great. I think it's literally bulletproof. I'm pretty sure it'll stop an AK round. Big, heavy, expensive, but it makes great flour. So, corn, rice, wheat, beans. You put it in buckets, you put it in Mylar. I have 100 videos on our channel about how to do that, so you can go check out bearindependent.com for the specifics there. But what's great here is once you get into this, it doesn't cost that much money. It really doesn't, and there's a huge economy of scale. The more you buy, the less it costs you per pound. Now, the drawbacks here is it requires more planning and more shopping. If you're going to go and buy 12,000 pounds of beans, there's some planning that goes into that. It also requires elbow grease. Somebody's got to put all that food in buckets, and that somebody is you, which is why it's good to have friends and good to be on a prepper team or a mutual assistance group or part of a tribe or your community watch or whatever, okay? And it can be time consuming to prepare this type of food. which is also why we recommend having more than 1 gallon of water per person per day. Because when you're dealing with dried goods, to boil rice, I need water. To cook beans, I need to soak the beans first and then boil them, so forth and so on, okay? So you want more than 1 gallon of water per person per day if the bulk of your food is in dried grains. I recommend a minimum of 3 gallons, but I much prefer 5 gallons of water per person per day, but that's a different video. Now, this stuff is also not mobile. So don't be throwing beans and rice in your bug out bag. Some options there are like granola and protein bars, Cliff bars, Chewy bars, whatever. I like peanuts. I put peanuts in quart Ziploc bags and double bag them. Then I put rubber bands around the outside so that they can't flop open and come undone. I like peanuts. I also like peanut butter. High in fat, high in protein, great if you're moving, very nutrient dense. So it's heavy, but it doesn't take up a lot of space. I really like peanut butter, and you can smush it. Yeah, it's a technical term, smush it on top of your granola bars for a double whammy out there when you're operating operationally like an operator in the field post Teotihuacan, man, or whatever. And so buying a bunch of granola bars might feel like cheating, but it's not cheating. It's using them for the appropriate application. For your mobile systems, your bug out bags, your get home bags, your car kits, your whatever, that's where those go. But remember, they have a shelf life, okay? 6 months or so, you need to trade that stuff out. So you should be checking your bug out bag every 6 months anyway. Spring and fall, dude. If you still got a winter cap in your bag right now and it's August or the September, you don't need that. What you need is bug spray and a mosquito net, okay? So every time the seasons change, dive in your bug out bag and make sure it's appropriately equipped, including all your delicious Cliff bars and crunchy bars and chewy bars and peanuts and blah, blah, blah. High caloric density, low cost of acquisition, highly mobile, highly recommended. The drawbacks here is depending on the item, again, they're going to have some expiration dates, and also they're finite. These are not like long-term sustainment calories. They're not going to get you through Armageddon, but they might get you from point A to point B while you're bugging out. Now, lastly, the don't be stupid talk. In SHTF, we're not going to have a whole lot of free time. I live on a homestead right now and things are good. The water's flowing, the electricity's flowing, the internet's flowing, and we still stay busy from sun up to sundown. So post an event, you're going to be doing even more work. And yeah. So surviving and providing for your family in a very adverse and stressful situation requires an enormous amount of time and energy. Do not pack the cheapest option when you need the most convenient one. Again, putting rice in your bug out bag. I have on occasion run parboiled rice on a long range bug out bag. If I'm in a permissive environment where I can use a little bit of water, it's parboiled, it'll go. But regular rice and beans, forget it. Beans got to soak to cook. We're going to stay here for 8 hours while the beans soak. Negative. So, do not pack the cheapest option when you need the most convenient one. Do not try to haul cans around when you need something light and portable. The smart strategy here is using all of these options for their respective purposes. Cans and glass jars at home while we're bugging in. Dried grain at home while we're bugging in. Or all of those things pre-positioned at our bug out location. Our survival food and our MREs for permissive and non-permissive environments while we're operating as a partisan or as a prepper as part of a security force, right? And then our snackies for when we need them. When we need to be highly mobile, we need a high caloric density, but they're not long-term food storage. You know, unless you want to buy a pallet of Chewy bars every year, probably not a good idea. So the methodology here is you got a pantry already, or you should start buying more canned goods and start getting deep your 3-month supply on your canned goods. Then start adding like these meal kits and MREs for morale. Also treats. I've got a brother who takes 5-gallon buckets and fills them with peanut M&Ms. It's a great idea. Put them in Mylar, good to go, right? So then meal kits to maintain morale, and then your dry food stocks, your corn, rice, wheat, beans, and all of that, and then use your packaged bars and your peanut butters and your peanuts and all that in your go bags, your high mobility stuff. So, food storage for SHTF, yes. You want options. Options are good. I want as many options as I can get. I hope you found some value in this video. If you're new to Survival Dispatch, go ahead and click the subscribe button, ring the little bell icon. Thank you to Survival Dispatch for letting me hang out here and talk to you all about this. Hit me in the comments. Tell me what I got wrong. Bear, you're wrong because of... Roger that. Make a video and tag me in it and I'll check it out. I appreciate y'all. You can find us at the YouTube channel, Bear Independent, INDEPENDENT, and check out the Prepper Classroom Series playlist on our channel as well for all of these things. We go in depth on all of these things in a classroom setting with a whiteboard, blah, 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 blah. Bless y'all. Bear out.